Hi, my name is Charlie and I'm a music composer for films, games and experiences. So the very first instrument was actually the recorder. When I was really young, and I sung like with my family, but the first instrument was the recorder, and I hated it. I didn't think it was nice, and I was like, that's not really my thing. But we had to do it for school lessons, and then I went with my mom. I went to a music school, and we got to try out all different kinds of instruments. And
which age did you?
This was around 6 or something. So I was 6 years old. I was going to a music school. We had an old piano in my parents' house, and I would play it all the time. But for choosing an instrument, I went to this music school. When we were there, I actually fell in love with the violin. But my mom, she was like, a violin, you can hear it practicing, like it's not so nice. So she was like pushing me towards the piano a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I ended up, because I was already playing piano, and I was already I would hear stuff on the television. I would try and mimic it or make you have, for example, some children's songs. I would try and play them on the piano. So it was a very logical step for me to start playing piano, and when I was 7 I started. It came from that piano, experimenting with the piano from around 6 or 7 years old. I was already kind of making my own songs, and then when I had lessons, the teacher would give me a song, and then it would be in major. And then I would play it in minor because I was like, oh, it sounds way nicer like this or something. Or I would play notes that weren't there, And then I think they kind of started to give me okay, maybe you can write something yourself, or you can make a composition. And I started writing it down. And when I was around 8, I entered a music competition in the Netherlands.
8?
And it's for the NBE, the Young NBE. They have a lot of flutes and brass instruments in the ensemble. And they organize every year a competition for young people to write something. And then it gets performed by a real live ensemble. And it also gets arranged by someone. So it's a very nice competition. I did that when I was 8, I think, and 12.
Did you win?
I didn't win, actually.
Damn it.
I got a promise prize, So they were like, oh, you have promise in you, or you have some kind of, we wish you the best for the future prize I got.
Yeah.
So that was fun. My composition was extremely short. It was 30 seconds or something. Interesting, because in HKU, because we do a 4-year program, I think as anyone that actually graduates there gets an honors, just because it's the 4-year so that's one of the honors. And then we have 2 more, because I did a internationalization project. I went for an internship to LA, and I did a special course within HKU that is about internationalization and working with people from other cultures, and kind of going a bit into depth on that subject. I did that, so that's another honors that I did. And then the last honors is in kind of business development, so it's a little bit more on the business side of music rather than just only on the craft. So I have the internationalization, more business focused, and then the regular. It was such an interesting experience for me to see, for the first time, how a studio operates and what they think about when they are doing projects, and kind of just in general experiencing LA and American industry. For me, it was it was super interesting for the first time to see how people working there, what's the hierarchy, when you're there, and
how high can you go, because it's the biggest, I think.
And I think for me, in the end, I think for me it was I liked doing everything, and I got a feeling when I was there that a lot of the times you start working as an assistant of somebody, and you actually don't really do what you want to do. So I felt if I'm freelancing here and I want to make music. Like that's what I want to do. I think I should just do my own things and start and make my own music and start that way, rather than starting as an assistant of someone.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather do it smaller but on my own than for a bigger company. And
maybe they will call you for
maybe
higher position. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It kind of was, but I felt very lucky, like in the position that I was in, because I was focusing not so much on live performance, but more on like studio work, working for games. At the time, I was working on a game for people with chronic pain. It's called Reducept.
You're at the place of your pain. Take a look around. Great. You now have enough positive energy to close the next gate.
It's a VR experience. Because of that immersive experience, very short words, like people experience less pain after doing the treatment, and they don't need any medication. So I was working during HKU. I was already working on that game, so I had already, and I was working with a film director that I knew from before high school even. So like I already had some things going on. For me, it kind of continued, and I had more time to really focus.
Of course, nothing to do. You have to be at home so you can be at the studio.
Yeah, exactly, and I had time to like make a plan and like start, do acquisition for projects, start socializing with film directors and people around me. So I felt it was kind of, in a way, it was also, it's sad that you can't see anyone, but it made me very focused on what I wanted to do. And it also, what do I want and how am I going to do it? And I'm not going to waste any time like going to things or thinking about things that don't get me to that end goal.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still working on it actually. Like it's still a work in progress, but I feel like there's definitely some sounds and some techniques that really gravitate to me, like in my the process how I make sounds. When I was really young, like I started playing piano and composing piano, and I have like a very small hands actually, so I like all my voicings are very small, so it's kind of part of my sound. And also I play with very fluid, so I like to not be on a very tight beat, like rhythm, but I like to kind of flow around a little bit, and that's also what you hear back in some of my more electronic music now. In HKU especially, that was the first time I kind of started experimenting with synthesizers and more with like recording audio and processing it in ways that I'd never done before. So I just kind of went all in and just I did some really crazy like HKU projects, and experiments. And I feel like it really inspired me to create sounds. And right now, when I'm working on a project now, I'm trying to take that and use it for my sounds, even for advertisements. I'm trying to like make sounds that I think are like, that inspire me, like that I'm looking at it and then I feel like, oh nice, this is interesting, or I put it through like, I don't know, this granular synthesizer or something, and then something happens, and then I'm going through it and I look for those little magic
good stuff there.
Yeah. A big part of my technique is listening to everything. I experiment and I have my techniques. Like, for example, I like what kind of filter I like to use, or I like, what kind of synthesizer or distortion I like to use. But then I always listen, how does it fit together? And I try something, sometimes without thinking, like there's not a set recipe, but sometimes I just throw things together and then I look, whoa, this actually works quite well, or I need to take something out. So like I try to do a lot with like listening and listening to the character of the sound, because sometimes like even the way that you like knock on a table can have a specific, like, oh, it feels rushed, or it feels, oh, this one is exactly what it feels like more energetic. It's very interesting because I've done, since I started my university, like I've almost only done projects for a specific purpose, and even like the game that I worked on it's for a purpose, and there's always going to be people with opinions, but I think if I get like not positive feeling making something, then it's right for me, you know. I can, if I feel like, I really like this, you know, like personally, like there's nobody else around, maybe everybody else hates it, but if I feel like I like it, then it makes me happy. And I'm trying to do that for each project, that I'm always making something that I like, and that I get energy from, in a way.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget, there's more to watch.